Sorry for the change of scenery. Both my office and where I shoot in the living room are both occupied with stuff that's normally not there. Moving things around, that sort of thing. Anyway, we're going to talk some more of the second Marvel Star Wars Omnibus with 3 issues today. Issues 70 through 72. And these are by Jo Duffy. A lot of people in the Star Wars community refer to her as Mary Jo Duffy, but based on my interview with Joe Bongiorno and him talking about it, it was a joke played on her to call her Mary Jo Duffy when she wrote Star Wars, and she doesn't like being called Mary, so going forward, I'll call her Jo Duffy in hopes that we can change that narrative, because like I talked about when she did that Punisher Assassin's Guild graphic novel, she's referred to as Jo Duffy. So, Jo Duffy it is. Anyway, this is the beginnings of her run on Marvel Star Wars. She's one of the 3 big Marvel Star Wars authors. And what I mean by big, I mean have the longest runs. So we had Archie Goodwin starting it off. He wrote probably about almost half the series. And David Michelinie took over, and I pretty much liked most of what he did, although I got a little long-winded near the end, but I don't blame him for it. Now we're getting into Jo Duffy's stuff, which deals once again with the hunt for Han Solo. This time it is Luke, Lando, Chewie, and R2 are going to a planet to track down IG-88 and Bossk. But Luke, Chewie, and R2 have been to this planet before, and so issue 70 is a backstory where we meet some other smugglers that Han knows. The smugglers try to double-cross him and the other rebels, because this, for the first time, we get a Han Solo flashback that has more characters than just Han and Chewie. We actually get Luke and Leia, and R2 and 3PO in it as well. Issue 70 kind of sucks, not gonna lie. It's not the laziest we had to have Han Solo in the comic story, but it's not very good, except for it introduces Rick, Danny, and I don't remember what the Rodian's name is off the top of my head. He really is only present in issue 70. But they're like their own smugglers group, and they're trying to play the rebels and the Empire against one another for personal gain. Issues 71 and 72 deal with running into Rick and Danny again. And I want to talk about Danny because I kind of like her as a character. She is a Zeltron, yes. I do. One of the things that Jo Duffy does for the series and for the general EU is introducing the Zeltrons. Most famously, we have Cade Skywalker's girlfriend in Legacy, who is a Zeltron. And Zeltrons are really keen with their emotions. They're a very emotional species. They're quick to anger, but also they're very kind of sensual in a way. And Danny has the hots for Luke. And then also Lando in issue 72, but that's, I think, only because Luke's not there. Look forward to seeing Danny again as kind of a recurring character. I believe she shows up periodically in Jo Duffy's run. But it's interesting to see Bossk and IG-88 before Tales of the Bounty Hunters, before the Bantam era, and what would be decided is their characters. I like IG-88 looks like his drawing is being taken from the film, whereas Bossk looks a little too pig-like. He's also really strong and like punches through a Duracrete wall, which is kind of wild. There is carbon freezing going on. I don't know if I like that. I don't need to get into the weeds of my thoughts of carbon freezing, but carbon freezing is becoming a thing in the Marvel Star Wars run. Okay. But overall, it's an okay storyline. Issue 71 and 72 are a bit better. Issue 70 is boring. I was not a fan, and it took me a hot minute to read it. And then with issues 71 and 72, it was a little better. I am so sick of and I'm almost certain it's Marvel editorial insisting we have to have Han Solo. But they don't do anything with Han Solo. Or if they do something, it's something Lando can do, and Lando could probably do better. And this is no shame on Han Solo. Han Solo, even at this time, had some good stuff. Like, we've talked about Han Solo at Star's End already. The other Brian Daly books are excellent. A.C. Crispin would later take the character and write her Han Solo trilogy. I like what Dave Wolverton does with him in Courtship of Princess Leia. There are a plethora of great Han Solo stories. In my opinion, though, specifically Archie Goodwin, but all of them, Han Solo is just kind of a whatever character. The comic, especially when Archie Goodwin was writing it, was very Luke-centric. And it makes sense. Luke is the protagonist of the original Star Wars. I mean, sure, Han and Chewie go off on a couple solo adventures that are, no pun intended, that are fun. But what they decided to do with Lando's character, especially when David Michelinie took over this book, is let's have the rogue aspects of Han Solo, but in a character that feels guilty for what he did, and it's about his redemption and trying to do better for his friends. And that's really the Lando stuff. And I think Lando really shines in these comics far more than Han ever did. At least up until post-Jedi. And it's just really... That's why I get so frustrated when we have a shoehorned Han Solo backstory. It takes away from the characters what the characters are doing in the present. And this is the third time this has happened. The third time. Like, we should be done with this by now. So, anyway, what would I rank these 3 issues? I'd probably give them the 3.7 out of 5. I like the Danny character. I like Luke is doing some cool Jedi Kung Fu stuff, which is fun. We're starting to see Luke look a little more like he does in Return of the Jedi. But, you know, we're still a little ways from it, even though we're getting mighty close at this point. We still got about 10 more issues before we get to Jedi. And honestly, I can't wait. So, anyway, have a nice day.